What's going on, guys? This is Gene Jensen, and I have got a product that I am so excited about, and I just wanted to show you guys how to put it in your boat. All right, so here it is. It is the Power Pole Charge, and I'm gonna tell you why I'm so excited about it. About 2 years ago, I was at ICAST down in Orlando, Florida, and I went into the Power Pole booth, and there was this crazy looking weird thing that you don't normally see in a Power Pole booth because they make shallow water anchors. And so it intrigued me. I went over and looked at it. They explained to me what it was, and it was this really cool device that was gonna be able to manage all of the battery life that's in your boat. So flash forward 2 years later, and it's finally out. And so I'm really excited about bringing it to you. This is a paid video. I would have done this for free. Don't tell them that, because I really do like this idea, and I'll tell you why I love it. The Power Pole Charge, what it does is it maintains your batteries, and it gives you a readout on your phone through an app to be able to tell what your batteries are doing. And the reason I like that is because I have spent tons of money on batteries that have drained way too deep because my son unplugged it and it didn't get charged for several days and it drained out or whatever. It's just, and I've had to replace batteries and more batteries, and it's expensive. It's really expensive. So being able to just pull up my phone and open up the app and be able to see what the batteries are doing is really nice. On top of that, what the Charge does is while you're fishing and you're on the trolling motor all day long, it will monitor and maintain your battery life. Say you drain your trolling motor batteries down. Well, it'll pull power from your cranking battery and put it in your trolling motor battery, or put it in your trolling motor batteries. It'll also allow your motor to charge all 3 batteries while you're running. There's tons of different things, and we'll get into that in another video. But in this video, what I want to do is I want to show you guys how to install it in your boat. All right, so let's open up the box, see what's inside. It pretty much kind of looks, well, it looks a lot like a regular boat charger. And when you look at the instructions on how to install it, it installs just like a boat charger. So it's got a whole bunch of crazy cords. It's got a box. I haven't done anything with it but read the directions. But the directions seem pretty easy. Now there's some rules that you have to understand when you're installing it in your boat. You got to find a dry place. You got to find a place that's not on top of the batteries, because your lead acid battery, especially, you know, I'm talking specifically about lead acid batteries, they emit a gas that will damage the housing to the Charge. So you want to mount it away from the gas can as much as you can, and not on top of the batteries, and in a dry spot. And I've got a spot right here where my current onboard charger is. It's very difficult to get to. I'm gonna have to pull battery out and kind of play around with it. But it's a perfect spot for it. It's on a horizontal or on a vertical wall. It's up against this side, and it is not on top of the batteries, not on top of the gas can. All right, I'm gonna grab the camera from my son, and I'm gonna show you guys where we got to put it. So this is an Alumacraft Pro 185, and I have absolutely maxed out the amount of space that's in the back of this boat with batteries. There's my giant cranking and electronics battery, because I'm running a whole bunch of electronics, some Raymarine stuff. But that's my charger. You see that weight in there? I've got to get that out and put the new one in. So I got to remove this battery, and I hope I don't have to remove the fill hose for the tank, for the gas tank. I don't think I'm going to have to, but we will see. So that's what I've got to do. What's it hung on? There it is. So we got this one out. So I'm going to have to run the wires up here. All right, so this is where I decided I'm going to mount it. Of course, it's the only place that I really can mount it, in the back of this boat. But they really recommend to have some significant space between or on the top and on the bottom, so you can allow for ventilation. They recommend 2 inches. I'm going to get as much as I can out of this. I'm going to put a spacer underneath it, kind of lift it up, put a spacer in there, and then drill my holes and put my screws in. Shouldn't be really hard. And then once we do that, we'll just hook it up to the batteries. I'll show you how to do that. And literally, then after that, it's just setting up the app and getting everything rolling. So let's do that. All right, so if you take a look down in here, I've got a block spacer just to hold it up so we can get that nice ventilation, or the best we can in the spot that it's at. And then these are my best friend. These are good old self-tappers. So we're gonna put as many of those in as I can. I think I'll be able to get 3 in, hold it good and stable. And really that's all there is. And then we're just gonna hook it up. So let's do that. Okay. Woo, wow, that was a lot easier than I thought it would be. I'll tighten this one down. All right, pull my spacer. And there it is. Kind of hard to fit some things into tight spaces, but we did it. All right, negative, positive, little spark. All right, so let's take a look at what we have here as in wiring. You've got 2 larger gauge, they're 8 gauge wires, and we have 4 smaller gauge wires. Look like they are 12 or 16, really doesn't matter, they're just smaller. So in the directions, what it tells you is that the 2 larger gauge wires go to your cranking battery. And if you're running a 24 volt system like I am, I got a 24 volt trolling motor, and it's running parallel, so there's certain ways you rig the wires, and that's what we're going to go over real quick. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to attach the red wire and the black wire, the positive and the negative, to the positive negative on the cranking battery. Got to identify the cranking battery. All right, so before you go hooking things up, make sure you identify what's the positive and what's the negative side of your battery. By the battery, not by the color of the wires, because a lot of times riggers will use red wires as their jumper wires between the troll motors, just like mine did. And one's attached to a negative, and the other one's attached to a positive, but they're both red wires. So make sure you identify it right. So we're going to add positive wire to the positive side, negative wire to the negative side. My arms are barely long enough. And I can't put a nut on. And then make sure you tighten everything down good and tight. Oops. Okay. All right, so the instruction manual is so easy to follow. They did such a good job with it. But this is what how I'm hooking it up. I'm putting the positive to positive, negative, negative. But then with your trolling motor batteries, you're going to put your main positive, the red wire, to the positive of one battery and the negative to the negative of the other battery, and then run the blue to the same battery that you ran the red wire and the yellow wire to the same battery that you ran the black wire. So I hope that makes sense, but this is really, really easy to follow. All right, so to start with, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and attach a negative to this one. I'm gonna attach a positive over to the positive end of this one, and that gets me started. And then it says to put the blue one on the same one you put the positive one on there. So I'm gonna put the blue one over here on the negative side of it. And I'm gonna put the yellow one over here on the positive side of this one. Okay. It's a good thing they aren't standing behind me right now, because they would have the best plumber's butt they've ever seen in their life. All right, so the last thing we're gonna do is we're gonna bundle up some of these wires. We're gonna add some zip ties, really try to make some of these wires disappear, and so they just don't look so cruddy back here. And also so my buddy Justin over at Bucks Island Marine, who's my rigger, doesn't have a fit next time he looks inside my boat. So he's the best rigger on the planet, but man, he's got some OCD. But anyway, so let's do that, and then we'll jump into the app, and we'll just go through what the app's gonna do for me. All right, so we had to pull it in the barn. It got a little bit too dark for video, so we're gonna talk a little bit about the app. The next thing you do after you've installed it, simple. Just go on your phone, go to the App Store, download the CMonster app, and then it's good for your iPhone, your Android. I know those questions are going to pop up. But what the app does, and I'm just going to kind of touch on the highlights, and in my second video, we're going to see more into detail what the app does. But what the app is supposed to do is it manages the power. It pulls power from the batteries that you aren't using and puts it in the batteries that you are using when it needs to. It doesn't do it all the time. It acts as a normal charger when it's plugged up to a normal AC current. You have it plugged up to the house or whatever else. So it's a normal battery charger, but when you're on the water is when it really shines. Say for instance, you run your cranking battery dead, and I've done it before. I was out on the lake several years ago with a buddy of mine, Wayman Coleman, and we were just hammering white perch, and we caught them for hours, cast after cast with jig and spoons. And we went to go home, and there was no cranking battery. So what we had to do is we had to go and open up the back and pull out wires and unplug them and run wires from the trolling motor batteries to the cranking battery in order to get it started. And then we found out that it was electronic fuel injection, and so when you unplug the wires from the trolling motor battery to plug them back into the cranking battery, the motor would go dead. So it's just we've all been through it. If you've owned a boat for long enough, you've been through it where your cranking battery is dead. Well, what this does, simple. You go into the app, you go into the emergency start deal, and it has a sequence of things that you've got to do, and then it allows you to crank your car. It allows you to crank your boat and get home when your cranking battery goes dead. So it pulls power from those trolling motor batteries without you having to do anything. That's one of the biggest things. It's got a lot of different features, but the best thing is that you always know what your batteries are doing by simply looking at your phone. So I'll get more in depth with this with the next video. Like I always say, be sure to introduce somebody to fishing. Introduce them to my channel. Let me help you teach them how to fish. More importantly, get out on the water, go out and catch some fish, and have a great day. We'll see you.